You are not lazy. Have you ever looked at yourself at the end of the day and thought, why am I so lazy? You had plans. You had things you wanted to do. Things you knew were important. And yet, somehow you didn't do them. Instead, you scrolled. You delayed. You told yourself, I'll do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow came. And the same thing happened again. So you start to believe a story that there's something wrong with you, that you lack discipline, that you're just lazy. But what if that story isn't true? What if laziness is not your problem, but only the surface of something much deeper? Let's be honest for a moment. No one wants to feel stuck. No one wakes up and says, I hope I waste my day and feel bad about myself later. We all want to move forward. We all want to grow, to create, to become something more. So why don't we? Why do we keep avoiding the very things that could change our lives? Here's the truth that most people don't talk about. You are not lazy. You are avoiding something. And that something is often not the task itself, but the feeling that comes with it. Think about it. There are things in your life that are difficult, but you still do them. And there are things that are not even that hard, yet you keep postponing them again and again. Why? Because it's not about how hard the task is. It's about how it makes you feel. Maybe starting that project makes you feel overwhelmed. Maybe working on your goals brings up self-doubt. Maybe trying something new reminds you of the possibility of failure. And those feelings are uncomfortable. So your mind does what it's designed to do. It protects you. But here's the catch. Your mind doesn't protect you from danger. It protects you from discomfort. And sometimes discomfort feels like danger. So instead of saying, I'm scared, your mind says, let's do something easier. Instead of saying, this matters to me and I'm afraid to fail, your mind says, I'm not in the mood today. And just like that, avoidance begins. Not because you're weak, not because you're lazy, but because a part of you is trying to keep you safe. The problem is, what protects you in the short term can quietly destroy your confidence in the long term. Because every time you avoid something important, you don't just delay the task. You reinforce a belief that says, I can't handle this, I'm not capable, I'll do it later. And the more you repeat that pattern, the more real it feels. This is how laziness is created. Not as a personality trait, not as a flaw, but as a pattern of avoidance driven by emotion. Let's go deeper. Imagine there are two parts inside you. One part wants to grow. It has goals, dreams, ambitions. It sees the bigger picture. But there's another part. A quieter, more sensitive part. This part remembers your past failures, your embarrassing moments, the times you felt not good enough, and its only job is to protect you from feeling that way again. So when you try to move forward, this protective part steps in. It whispers, what if you fail again? What if people judge you? What if you're not as good as you think? And suddenly, the task doesn't feel like just a task anymore. It feels like a risk. So you hesitate. You open your phone. You check something small. You tell yourself, just 5 minutes. But deep down, you know, you're not resting. You're escaping. And the more you escape, the harder it becomes to return. Because now, it's not just about the task. It's about the guilt, the pressure, the growing voice in your head that says, look at you. You can't even do this. That voice is not helping you. It thinks it is. It thinks that by criticizing you, it will push you to change. But in reality, it only makes the feeling worse. And when the feeling gets worse, you avoid even more. This is the cycle that traps so many people. Avoidance, guilt, self-criticism, more avoidance. And at the center of it all is not laziness. It's unprocessed emotion. So what happens if we change the way we see it? What if instead of asking, "Why am I so lazy?" you ask, "What am I feeling right now that I don't want to face?" That question changes everything. Because now you're not attacking yourself. You're getting curious. You're not trying to force action. You're trying to understand resistance. Maybe you'll notice, "I feel overwhelmed. I feel like I'm not ready. I feel scared that this won't work." And suddenly, it makes sense. Of course you didn't start. Not because you're lazy, but because a part of you didn't feel safe. And here's where real change begins. Not with pushing harder, not with more discipline, but with awareness. Because when you can see what's really happening inside you, you stop fighting yourself. And when you stop fighting yourself, you can finally start moving forward. In the next part, we're going to go even deeper. We'll explore the hidden emotions behind procrastination and why the things that matter most to you are often the hardest to begin. But for now, just remember this. You are not lazy. You are human. And there is a reason behind everything you avoid. The emotions you don't want to feel. So if you're not actually lazy, then what is really going on? If you look a little closer, you might start to notice something important. You're not avoiding the work itself. You're avoiding how the work makes you feel. Because most of the time, the task is not the problem. The feeling is. Think about something you've been putting off lately. Something you know you should do. Something that matters to you. Now be honest with yourself. What do you feel when you think about doing it? For a lot of people, it's not excitement. It's not clarity. It's something heavier. It might be a quiet sense of overwhelm, like you don't even know where to begin. It might be self-doubt, that subtle voice telling you that you're not good enough. It might be pressure, like this thing matters too much and you don't want to mess it up. Or maybe it's anxiety, a kind of tension you can't fully explain, but you feel it in your body. And the moment those feelings appear, something inside you pulls away, not because you're weak, but because your mind is trying to protect you. Your mind doesn't like discomfort. It doesn't like uncertainty. It doesn't like anything that feels emotionally unsafe. So instead of processing the feeling, it looks for an exit. It tells you, you can do this later. Just take a short break. Let's do something easier first. And just like that, you step away. At first it feels harmless, even reasonable. But the more you do this, the more it becomes a pattern. And over time, that pattern starts to look like laziness. But underneath it, there's always something deeper. Sometimes it's fear of failure. Because when something truly matters to you, failing doesn't feel small. It feels personal. It feels like it says something about who you are. So a part of you would rather not try at all than risk finding out that you're not as capable as you hoped. Other times, it's not even failure you're afraid of. It's the feeling of not being enough. You compare yourself to others. You see how far ahead they are. And without realizing it, you start to believe that you're behind. So instead of starting imperfectly, you wait. You wait until you feel ready. You wait until you feel confident. But readiness doesn't come from waiting. It comes from doing. And still, you hesitate. Sometimes it's simply overwhelm. The task feels too big, too undefined, too much. And when your brain can't clearly see the next step, it doesn't move. It shuts down. Not because you don't care, but because you care so much that it becomes heavy. And then there's the fear of being seen, the fear of judgment. Because once you start, it becomes real. Other people might notice. They might have opinions. They might judge. And being seen in something that matters to you can feel incredibly vulnerable. So again, you pause. You delay. You tell yourself, not now. And sometimes, it's none of those things. Sometimes you're just tired. Not physically tired, but emotionally exhausted. You've been carrying too much for too long. Too many expectations. Too many thoughts. Too many quiet pressures that no one else can see. And your system is simply asking for space. But even when you stop, you don't feel at peace. Because deep down, you know you're not truly resting. You're avoiding. So you end up in this strange place where you can't move forward, but you also can't fully relax. And that tension stays with you. This is the hidden weight behind what we call laziness. It's not emptiness. It's not a lack of discipline. It's emotional friction. And the more you ignore it, the stronger it becomes. Because your mind will always choose short-term relief over long-term growth. It will always guide you toward what feels safe right now, even if it keeps you stuck later. So maybe the question is not, how do I stop being lazy? Maybe the real question is, what am I feeling that I don't want to face? And that question requires a different kind of courage. Not the courage to push harder, but the courage to stay. To pause in the middle of avoidance and turn inward instead of away. The next time you catch yourself reaching for distraction, just stop for a moment. Take a breath and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? You don't need a perfect answer. You don't need to fix anything. Just notice. Maybe it's discomfort. Maybe it's fear. Maybe it's doubt. Let it be there just for a moment. Because when you stop running from a feeling, it slowly loses its grip on you. And when that happens, the thing you've been avoiding doesn't feel as heavy anymore. Not because it changed, but because you did. How to move forward without fighting yourself. So now you understand something most people don't. You're not lazy. You're responding to something inside you. And maybe for the first time, instead of blaming yourself, you're starting to see yourself more clearly. But understanding is only the beginning. Because at some point, you still want to move forward. You still want to take action. To begin. To change something in your life. So the question becomes, how do you move forward? Without forcing yourself? Without fighting against your own mind? Most advice will tell you to push harder. Be more disciplined. Wake up earlier. Stay consistent. Ignore your feelings. But if you've ever tried that, you already know what happens. It might work for a while, but eventually you burn out. Because you're treating the symptom, not the cause. Real change doesn't come from pressure. It comes from a different relationship with yourself. A softer one. A more honest one. So instead of asking, how do I make myself do this? Try asking, how can I make this feel safer to start? Because when something feels safe, you don't have to force it. You naturally move toward it. Let's begin with something simple. Not easy, but simple. The next time you're about to avoid something, don't jump straight into action. Pause and go back to that question, what am I feeling right now? But this time, go one step further. Ask yourself, what is the smallest step I can take? Without overwhelming myself? Not the perfect step, not the full plan. Just the smallest possible movement. Maybe it's opening the document. Maybe it's writing one sentence. Maybe it's working for 5 minutes. And stopping. This might sound too small to matter. But here's the truth. Your mind is not afraid of effort. It's afraid of emotional overload. And when you lower the emotional weight of a task, you lower the resistance. You're not trying to finish everything. You're just trying to begin. Gently. Because starting is not about motivation. It's about reducing friction. Now here's something important. When you take that small step, a voice might appear. It might say, this is not enough. This is too slow. You should be doing more. That voice is the same one that pushed you into avoidance in the first place. So instead of listening to it, acknowledge it and keep going gently. You are not here to prove anything. You are here to build trust with yourself. And trust is not built by forcing. It's built by showing up consistently in a way that feels safe. Another thing you can do is to stop waiting to feel ready, because readiness is not something you find. It's something you create through action, but not big, overwhelming action. Small, imperfect, repeatable action. You don't need to feel confident to begin. You need to begin to feel confident. And maybe most importantly, learn to separate your worth from your productivity. Because a lot of the pressure you feel comes from the belief that if I don't do this well, it means something about me. But it doesn't. Failing at a task does not mean you are a failure. Struggling does not mean you are weak. Taking longer than expected does not mean you are behind. It means you're human. And being human takes time. So instead of asking yourself to be perfect, ask yourself to be present. Show up for a few minutes. Do what you can. Then step back without guilt. Because consistency doesn't come from intensity. It comes from sustainability. And sustainability comes from kindness. Not the kind of kindness that lets you avoid everything, but the kind that says, I know this is hard, and I'm still going to take one small step. Over time, something shifts. The thing that once felt heavy starts to feel familiar. The resistance becomes quieter. The fear becomes smaller. And you begin to realize you were never stuck. You were just overwhelmed. And now you're learning how to move without breaking yourself in the process. In the next part, we're going to explore how to rebuild discipline in a way that actually works. Not through pressure, but through alignment. But for now, just remember this. You don't need to fight yourself to move forward. You just need to understand yourself and take the next step with a little more compassion. Discipline that doesn't hurt you. At some point, we all realize something. Understanding yourself is powerful, but it's not enough. Because life still asks you to show up. There are still things you want to build. Still goals that matter to you. Still a version of yourself you haven't fully become yet. So the question is no longer just, why am I avoiding? The question becomes, how do I stay consistent without hurting myself in the process? Most of us were taught a very rigid version of discipline. Wake up early. Push through discomfort. Ignore how you feel. Be strict with yourself. And if you fail, blame yourself. Try harder. This kind of discipline can work for a while, but it often comes with a hidden cost. It disconnects you from yourself. It turns your inner voice into something harsh, something demanding, something you start to resist. And over time, discipline begins to feel like punishment, something heavy, something you avoid. But what if discipline didn't have to feel that way? What if discipline could feel supportive? Real discipline is not about forcing yourself. It's about creating a system that understands you. Because consistency is not built on pressure. It's built on alignment. Alignment between what you want and what you can emotionally handle. So instead of asking, how do I become more disciplined? Try asking, what kind of structure would actually support me? Maybe that means starting smaller than you think you should. Maybe it means working for shorter periods, but more regularly. Maybe it means giving yourself permission to rest without guilt. Because when your system feels supported, you don't need to fight it. You move with it. Let's talk about something important. Discipline is not about intensity. It's about returning. You will have days where you don't feel like doing anything. Days where you fall back into old patterns. Days where you avoid, delay, distract. That's part of being human. The difference is not in never falling off. The difference is in how you come back. Old discipline says, you failed. Start over. Try harder. Soft discipline says, you drifted. Come back gently. No shame. No harsh judgment. Just a quiet return. Because the goal is not perfection. The goal is continuity. And continuity is built through forgiveness. Another shift you can make is to stop relying on motivation. Motivation is unstable. It comes and goes. It rises and falls depending on how you feel. If you only act when you feel motivated, you will always be inconsistent. But if you create a rhythm, a simple, repeatable structure, you remove the need to decide every time. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be doable. For example, instead of saying, I'll work when I feel ready, you say, I'll show up for 10 minutes, no matter what. And if after 10 minutes you want to stop, you can. Because the goal is not to force productivity. The goal is to build trust. Trust that you will show up, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's not perfect. And slowly, that trust becomes your foundation. There's one more thing most people don't realize. The way you talk to yourself shapes your ability to stay consistent. If your inner voice is always critical, always demanding more, always pointing out what's missing, you will start to avoid not just the task, but the feeling of being with yourself. But if your inner voice becomes supportive, if it says, it's okay to go slow, it's okay to struggle, you're still moving forward, then showing up doesn't feel like pressure anymore. It feels like care. And when something feels like care, you return to it more easily. This is what real discipline looks like. Not rigid, not harsh, not perfect, but steady, gentle, and deeply sustainable. Because in the end, you don't need to control yourself to grow. You need to understand yourself enough to keep going without breaking. In the next part, we're going to bring everything together. We'll talk about how to rebuild your energy, your focus, and your sense of direction. So you don't just move forward, but move forward with clarity. But for now, remember this. Discipline is not about forcing yourself to become someone else. It's about learning how to support who you already are, so you can become who you're meant to be. Coming back to yourself at the end of all of this, after all the thoughts, all the patterns, all the questions, what you might begin to realize is something very simple. You were never the problem. All this time, you thought you were lazy. You thought you lacked discipline. You thought there was something wrong with you. But the truth is, you were just trying to protect yourself in the only way you knew how. Every time you avoided something, there was a reason. A feeling you didn't know how to face. A fear you didn't know how to name. A weight you didn't know how to carry. And instead of understanding that, you judged yourself. You pushed yourself. You compared yourself. You told yourself to be better. But maybe what you needed was never more pressure. Maybe what you needed was more awareness, more honesty, more compassion. Because when you finally stop and listen, really listen, you start to hear something different. Not the loud, critical voice that tells you to do more, but the quiet one underneath it. The one that says, I'm tired, I'm scared, I don't know if I can do this. And for the first time, instead of silencing that voice, you stay. You don't run. You don't distract yourself. You don't judge. You just stay. And in that moment, something shifts. Not dramatically, not all at once, but gently. Because when you stop abandoning yourself, you start building something new. Trust that you can face discomfort without running away. Trust that you can take small steps without needing to be perfect. Trust that even when you fall back, you can come back again. And that changes everything. Because now, you're no longer fighting yourself. You're working with yourself. You understand that growth is not linear. that some days will feel heavy, that some days you will still avoid. And that's okay, because progress is not about never stopping. It's about returning, again and again. Returning to your breath, returning to your intention, returning to the part of you that still wants to move forward, even if it's scared. And maybe that's what strength really is. Not pushing through everything, but staying with yourself, even when things feel uncertain. So the next time you find yourself stuck, the next time you catch yourself saying, "I'm so lazy," pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, what am I really feeling right now? And whatever the answer is, meet it with a little more kindness, because you don't need to become someone new to move forward in your life. You just need to stop running from yourself. And when you do that, slowly, quietly, you begin to move again. Not out of pressure, not out of fear, but from a place that feels real, a place that feels like you. And maybe that's the real journey. Not becoming more productive, not becoming more perfect, but becoming more honest, more aware, more connected to who you already are. Because in the end, you were never lazy. You were just lost for a moment. And no, you're finding your way back.